Hey guys, Casey Judge here, Baseball Rebellion. In this week's breakdown, I'm going to be doing the Pittsburgh Pirates center fielder Andrew McCutchen. Really wanted to pick out Andrew McCutchen because he's not that big of a guy. He's listed at 5'10", 195 pounds on his Baseball Reference page, but he has put up some pretty consistently good offensive years in his career. I know last year was one of his down years. He hit in the 250s. His OPS was in the mid 700s. That's not really atypical for McCutchen, but he did hit over 20 home runs last year, and he has hit over 20 home runs in each of the last 5 seasons. And coming from someone with his size at only 5'10", 195 pounds, he's got to move his body efficiently in his swing to produce those types of numbers. So we're going to take a look at his swing. This is a home run he hit in spring training of last year. This ball is absolutely crushed. It had to have gone at least 420 feet to left field. The announcer says, makes note of it in the live video of how far it goes. He just absolutely loses this ball. So we're going to take a look at that in full speed right now. Really good turn there, really efficient, sways into that back hip, externally rotates into that back hip, and then goes forward. Good row, good stretch, and we're going to play this a couple times. Just such a beautiful swing. We'll look at it one more time. So now we'll break it down. We'll look at his movements and why he's so effective in this swing. So one thing I really like about Andrew McCutchen is how his load is. He loads. He's a long loader. So he's loading. He's building up his swing in the load. I know a lot of hitting instructors and a lot of hitting methodology nowadays. It's all focused on the turn in the swing and when the bat actually moves. But the more and more I look at it, the best hitters create speed in their swing by building it up in the load. So as you can see, McCutchen utilizes a sway back load. He sways, but he's rowing that back shoulder, that back elbow. So we're going to put a dot. I'll use a circle. We're going to put a dot right here. So his back elbow is right there. And then when he pulls back, you can obviously see that back elbow get to there. So he's doing that by pulling back his elbow, similar to like a dumbbell row, in his load to create some tension between his lower body and his upper body in his swing. And that's just a quality of a lot of elite hitters. I see Miguel Cabrera do that. Gabby Sanchez does it. Just guys who move effectively in their patterns. They're really good at rowing that back shoulder to create a delay between their upper body and their lower body. And we're going to go into why that is important. So we'll take it a foot strike. We'll take a look at McCutchen's lower body and his positioning. So he's effectively lengthened out his back leg. His hips are open. His front leg is bent. And his foot is open. Now this open front foot is going to allow for his hips to clear a little cleaner, and a little less friction is going to happen in his knee and in his front hip by just opening up his foot. That's very important in quality in most elite hitters is their front foot is open. Anytime you can provide less restriction in your body, you're going to get a lot more snap, and those hips are going to open a lot more freely as opposed to trying to keep that foot closed, which really isn't going to do anything. It isn't going to benefit you as a hitter pretty much in any way. It's only going to put a lot of stress on the meniscus in your knee and your front hip. Gabe wrote a really good article a while back on front side injuries and how hitters put themselves at risk. So if you haven't seen that or read that, I really suggest you do if you're watching this breakdown. Now we're going to get into actually his head positioning. So we're going to go back and draw that line on his foot right there. So I want you guys to take a look at where his head is in relation to his body. So very good job of lengthening out his back leg, as you can see. So this line has lengthened out a little bit. But I also want you to see how he keeps his head over his back hip. I mean, that's really important and something that we really advise our hitters to do is as they move forward, they move behind their back hip. So moving forward is great, but it doesn't really matter how much you can move forward unless your head is behind your back hip, and that's something McCutchen does very, very well in his swing. Now we're going to take a look at his turn. So front arm is working up very well in the swing. You can see this Pirates logo is starting to go up. Hands relative to shoulder really haven't moved much. So if I measured that space between his hands and his shoulder, it's probably the same distance as when it started as where it is now. Then we'll take it to contact. You can see this barrel blur. He does a really good job of turning the barrel behind him. I always preach to the hitters that come into Baseball Rebellion and that I work with online that you really want to think about turning the barrel behind you, beside you. I mean, I say that a lot in lessons. I say that a lot to my online lessons. It's very important that you're trying to get in the way of the ball from behind and beside and not directly at the ball. And I know this is very subtle, but if you want to take a look at the blur of his barrel right there, you know, that thing is being shaped behind, beside, kind of like a Nike swoosh. So we'll take this to contact. Take a look at McCutchen. He does a very good job of pulling his back foot through. Very good. Backside mechanics. Front leg is straight. He's driving through the heel. If he was driving through his toe would be on the ground, but you can very easily see that he's driving through his heel, putting the load of the swing in the bigger muscles. Posterior chain muscles is very good. And we're going to take a look at his upper body mechanics. So he's very good at contact, very bent back arm, bent front arm, good hitter's box, and his vision is excellent. His vision is directly on the ball. Something that goes vastly underlooked in the swing is vision, and McCutchen's vision where it is now, we're going to erase all these lines. I want you to take a look at how his nose is right here. It's looking forward, but as he goes to turn, his head is now back. So I know positions in the swing are taught, and it's very important to understand what a good position or what good positioning in the swing is, but it's even more important to know that vision allows that to happen. And if your vision is too far forward out here and it never turns back here, you can practice all the positions you want, but your swing is never going to work because of the space you're trying to make it work in. And McCutchen really makes his swing work back here before it works forward, just like that. And then we're going to go through contact. I do want to make note of that back foot moving. I love McCutchen's lower half. I love how his back foot is pulled forward by his back hip and catches him very nicely. And then that allows, a lot of people don't really understand the back foot in the swing, but the back foot being pulled forward and catching yourself with a high back heel, as McCutchen does, high back heel meaning heel up, is going to allow the hitter to continue rotation. And I know he ends up getting into this position with his back foot, but how he catches himself initially, that heel is high, and it allows for him to continue the rotation of his upper body. I see a lot of hitters land on the outside of their back pinky toe. It's just not very strong and not very supported, and doesn't really allow your upper body to continue rotation as good as it could. So, once again, I hope you enjoyed this breakdown. I think Andrew McCutchen is going to have a really good year this year. He's going to bounce back from last year, even though he didn't have the worst of years by any means last year. I just know, based on how he moves in the swing, he's capable of way better numbers than 250 and 23 home runs, I believe. So I look forward to seeing McCutchen have a good year, and I hope you enjoyed this breakdown.